Hello, everyone. My name is Chumsuri. We have not met. I just want to thank you, especially today, coming out through the snow to our luncheon that happens every third Wednesday. All I can say is oofda, right? I actually probably jinxed this. It's all my fault because about 2 weeks ago, during all the snow, I posted on LinkedIn that this event would not have snow. So I did it to myself. So the rest of our winter, we have a few events coming up in March. March 7th, Rick here, Brimacombe, hosts our Minneapolis Club events. They're fabulous events. His next event is crowdfunding to ICOs. It's tips on the do's and don'ts of utilizing crowdfunding, initial coin offerings, and other innovative strategies to raise money for your business. Then on March 19th, he's having lessons learned for business owners, lessons about critical operational areas. And then we're back here in St. Paul on March 20th, the next day, leading millennials to accelerate business results. Our luncheons, I want to thank our sponsors, and they are the University Club, Olsen Thielen CPAs, a regional accounting and consulting firm, the Irish Titan, e-commerce digital agency, Winthrop and Weinstein, a general practice law firm, and my company, Legal Shield, providing employee benefits in identity theft and legal protection. And I'd like just to start to introduce our speaker a little bit about Sarah. I'm not going to give you her whole bio, but I did actually have the opportunity to work with her a while back for myself. I know that surprises you. I worked with her and really enjoyed and learned a lot from her workshop that I did for a whole entire year. And so I really enjoyed the work that she did for me and wanted to share her expertise and bring her here to Club E to share information with you. So with that, let's welcome Sarah Krishner.
Thank you, Chum. Stand up straight and put your shoulders back. Stand up straight and put your shoulders back. Stand up straight, put your shoulders back. What a good-looking group. And you're compliant, awesome. You can sit down. I just wanted to say that to get the ball rolling, actually. I wanted to prove a point, too. My mom, when I was growing up, said that to me like 1,000 times. You see, I grew to this height by the time I was 13. So the last thing I wanted to do was stand up straight and put my shoulders back. I think, we can all agree that those are awkward years, but when you're sticking out like a sore thumb, it makes it worse. All you want to do is just be like, oh. I walked around sometimes in crowds like this so I wouldn't stick out. And the last thing I felt was confident. And it didn't stick. I had to keep hearing it over and over and over from my mom until one time, I don't know when, it wasn't like some groundbreaking thing, but one time I finally said, okay, I'll stand up straight. And you know what happened? And there's research now to prove this. But what happened is when I stood up straight with my shoulders back, my body started to inform my mind, I'm confident. This one action, this one thing that I did to hold my body in a confident position actually makes you more confident. It made me more confident. Amy Cuddy did research not too long ago, and if you've had the pleasure to see her TED Talk, she has an amazing 18-minute TED Talk where she talks about how our body language can actually inform our brain. And she talks about this power pose idea. Like if we just stand in a power pose position for 2 minutes, we will actually raise our testosterone and lower our cortisol. So what this means is that the next time you go into a stress responsive situation where you're speaking, or you're going into an interview, or you have some big sale that you have to go, pitch, or it's whatever it is, and you have that fight or flight response where you feel like your throat is just closing and your heart is beating really fast. You can do this power pose idea for 2 minutes. It could be in the bathroom. It could be, even I sometimes when I'm speaking will stand up while I'm being introduced, and I'll just stand here really confidently. And what I'm doing is I'm actually breathing, I'm actually taking in really calm breaths, and I'm telling my body, I'm confident, I got this. So we don't have to feel confident in order to get ourselves to get to that position, to get into a space of confidence. I don't have to feel it, I just have to know what to do to get there. So in essence, in order to be confident, we first have to step into a place where we don't feel confident. Think about anything you've ever done that was high stakes, that was scary, that was, get your heart pounding, freaking out. Like, you didn't wait and sit back until you felt confident. You had to step into it. You had to go, you know what? All right, here goes nothing. And when you get to that point where you go, here goes nothing, that's when you're really living. That's when you're alive. That's when you know this is for you. And that's what speaking does. Speaking makes you feel alive. So the next time you get a little nervous, you get a little anxious, you get fearful, and you're doing this thing where you're talking to, I don't care if it's a conference room and you're at you're sitting down with 4 people and you're nervous. It doesn't matter what your situation, knowing that first you have to step into this scary place before you can build the confidence. I want you to understand that so much so that it doesn't bother you to step into that scary place. That you go, you know what? I hear you, I see you, I feel it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I know that in order for me to get to that place, I have to step in. That action that you take is going to get you to the place where you go, oh, I love speaking. Is anybody in that place right now? Who loves speaking? We got a couple, 3, awesome, I love that. And for you that maybe don't feel like, oh, speaking is a love of mine, know that it's a building process, and there's a point where you can start to enjoy it. It really doesn't have to be super painful all the time. Chum said I'm Sarah Kreischer, and I have a business called Stand Tall. I started this business about 4 years ago, and I love it. I work with individuals, groups, companies. Welcome. You made it, yay. And my business is all around teaching leaders to lead at the front of the room with confidence. And you say, well, I'm not really a leader. What do you mean? If you're at the front of the room, you're a leader. That's my definition. Because you gotta be able to lead a group. You gotta be able to lead a conversation. You gotta be able to lead self up here. And so you're a leader if you can do that. Now, I'm really, really passionate about this topic of leading at the front of the room with confidence, partially because I hated it. I was scared to death of it. Couldn't do it for so many years. Couldn't do it. Anybody else in a position where they're like, this is really difficult. Oh, you love it, but you started there. Awesome. So Rick knows what it's like too. You can come out of that space. So I do this work because I love it, and I know that for those of you that are struggling with it, that there's an answer. There's a way to get out of it. And there are really 3 reasons that keep people from coming to the front of the room. Those 3 reasons I'm going to share with you today, and I'm also going to share with you ways to get past it. So that if there is something that's kind of hanging you up from saying, yes, I'll do that speech, or yes, I'll go up and I'll represent our department in the company meeting. Hopefully after today, you'll feel a little bit more confident about saying, yeah, I'll do that. All right? Before we get into that piece of it, I would like to hear from all of you, what makes this topic important to you? So the idea of leading at the front of the room with confidence, just because it's important to me, and I think, oh, everybody should really care about this, doesn't mean that you do. But I hope that you at your tables will take a couple minutes to explore what could it mean for you if you were able to be up here confidently and give presentations. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes or so, not a lot of time. Introduce yourselves at your table. find out what makes it important to you, and then I'll call you back when we're ready. All right. I would love to hear what you came up with. What makes this important to you? Let's just hear from this table. Who wants to share?
I speak a lot, and it's just made the difference in how quickly I grow and what kind of clients I can attract. And it just makes all the difference in the world to be able to be effective with what you have to say and to say it with confidence. And then when we were talking, there's always more to learn. It's not like, like, oh, I got this. Like, right, there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. And I don't ever claim to know everything up here, because it's like and what works for you doesn't work for me. And so there's this like piece of it that's very organic and awesome. Great point. What about this table? What makes it important? Who wants to,
people still buy from people, and no matter what company you're representing, you're the person representing the company. So to present not just confidence in me, but confidence in who I'm representing too.
yeah, and if you can share that in front of a group, I mean, it builds trust for sure. Awesome. How about this table? She just took a bite, so you're out. You don't have to do it. How about Heidi? You want to share this?
I do believe we're all in a position to do this at least several times in our life, whether it's personal or professional. So I think, again, I can always learn, but I am learning how to make other people feel comfortable, as we've said, around the table here as well.
Thank you. I just put you on the spot, and you rolled with it. I love it. How about this table? By now you've thought of who might be doing this. Kevin. I'm picking on you.
Well, in my role, I manage a sales team, and I'm also responsible for business development for the community bank that I work at. And as such, there's just an expectation that I'm presenting to customers and different centers of influence, whether they have a conference or we're getting together to network, that I can be out there presenting some thought leadership around certain areas around my expertise. And I'm naturally an introvert by nature, so I like to kind of hang out behind the scenes. So just came here because I wanted to feel more comfortable and more confident in presenting. So hoping to get some tips from Sarah, who I've known for quite some time.
Nice job. You nailed that. I always find it interesting that people that somewhat, feel a little bit angst about this skill, how they do such an amazing job anyway, and you can't even tell they're nervous, and you're just like, what? But it's in us if it's in us. So we got to figure out how to work with that. Typically, it's a mindset thing. And I'll go into that a little bit in a bit. But I wanted to address this introvert concept. I hear this a lot. That's why it's good enough to pause here and say, okay, who's an introvert in this room? Self-proclaimed. All right, we got a good amount of introverts here. What I'll say about introverts is that while it might not be their natural inclination to stand in front of the group and get the limelight, be at the center of attention, what introverts do is they spend a good deal of time up front preparing. So by the time they come up here, they're damn sure they have something to say. And so introverts make amazing speakers because they have thought about it every which way but loose, and they are ready, and they know that what they have to say is important, otherwise they would not be up here. So if you're an introvert, consider yourself lucky. This skill is going to be something that you can do probably, well, I wouldn't say better than extroverts, but extroverts, they have a different capacity up here. They might be able to actually not prepare and come up here and present and still do an amazing job. But I would say they still have to do quite a bit to hone their skill, because they can go all over the place, and you can be done listening to them and go, what did they even say? You're laughing because you know. So both introverts and extroverts have, something to work on, which is, it just makes you feel better. Yeah.
The thing that hits me up though with the extroverts, they seem to be able to think off their feet really quick. Like I say, may get off into some tangent that doesn't mean anything, but you're talking into a group and not being in sales, you get a question, all of a sudden you're like a deer in headlights, where somebody that's an extrovert will come up with something to say.
There's a piece of this. So he was talking about extroverts seem to be able to go off the top of their head with whatever they are needing to talk about. And what I'll say about that is, yes, some people are naturally skilled at being able to do somewhat improv or what's the word? I'm just going to skip it. Improv. There was another word. It's gone. It's gone. We're leaving it. But what happens is, spontaneous talk. It was a word that started with an E, but it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. Yes, thank you. Who said that? You get the prize. Thank you. Yeah, but really what you probably are noticing there is that the extrovert, and I don't want to generalize like all extroverts can do this. There are people that are able to get present and enjoy a group of people in front of them and be able to really step into it and roll with the punches, and they're just like natural. And that's what they're doing, is they're stepping into the presence. Now, introverts often aren't real present. They have to work towards that. It doesn't mean you can't get there. It's just that it takes a little effort for an introvert, because they've spent so much time preparing that there's a right way to do this. And if there's a right way to do this, I better not screw this up. So I'm going to be in my head thinking about it the entire time I'm up here, because it has to go one way. It has to go the way that I planned it. Making sense? Yeah. So extroverts are like, oh, who cares? Something didn't happen the way I thought, but this is cool. It's even better. So it's just a matter of what are you used to? And introverts, how long have you talked about your subject, your topic? So if you have a ton of experience, you have a lot of knowledge in people asking you certain questions, you're going to be more able to answer those on the fly when those come up than if you're kind of new to it all, and the question is the first couple times that it comes to you, you're like, ooh, I don't know how to answer that. But obviously over time, you go, I know how to answer that. So some of this is that we see someone that's a rock star up here and we go, oh my gosh, they're just naturally gifted. Well, they might have stumbled quite a bit to get to the point where they're in front of you looking like a rock star. So I promised that there would be 3 reasons that people don't come to the front of the room, and I would share with you how to get over those. First one, and you'll see in your handout here, I don't use PowerPoints in my presentation. I want the option to use a PowerPoint. I just usually don't choose to use a PowerPoint. The reason is I want you to be able to take away a handout, and I want you to focus on me and what's going on here, so I don't want to compete with the PowerPoint. Now, this handout is laid out just like I would create and format a presentation, and this is by design, and I'll share with you how that is laid out. But in the core area, you see the purple. There are 3 big concerns that hold people back, and one is that they need more confidence. When someone needs more confidence, it's usually because they thought to themselves a thought, and then all of a sudden they got the feeling, and then the feeling told them, yep, the thought's true. So, oh my God, I'm going to suck at this. It's really getting me amped up now. And then, yeah, you're right. No one's going to listen. They're not going to think this is important. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to know what to say. I'm going to forget. and you get this loop going, and that mindset feeds on itself, and then you screw up. All right, so we don't want to do that. We want to do something more confident, which means we want to be more strategic in our I guess I don't call it fear, because fear up here, it's actually exhilaration, in my opinion. We're not going to die. No one's going to kill you because you're up here. So it's not a fear of death, which is kind of how it feels sometimes. But fear and exhilaration are interpreted by our brain in the same way. Make sense? If you feel the feeling, you go, I'm scared. But what if you were to say, you know what? I'm exhilarated. That feeling is actually me being excited. And I've mislabeled it this whole time. I'm excited to be up there. It's hard to contain my excitement. Are you buying this? Come on. Tell me you're buying it. Okay, good. So I've got this card. On the back, it's 20 confidence boosters. I'd like you to do a quick read, kind of a skim, and think about this in terms of your own speaking or your own anxiety. When it comes up, when it's hitting you hard, what do you think would be helpful? Just choose, circle 3 that would be really helpful. This is going to go to be a strategy for you. And then we'll share some of them. What's standing out already? You can just shout them out. Memorize your start. Yeah, that's visualize. Yeah, who would have thought you should visualize success? Athletes do it, yeah. And we don't give ourselves that, this speaking thing is actually a skill set. If it could be a sport, we'd be visualizing success. Let's think about it as a sport. How do we go into this? Kevin, what were you going to say about?
Say wearing your lucky socks. And my thought is it makes you happy. It brings you joy, so you go into it in a good place.
Frames up your mind before you go in. It's we laugh at it, but it's totally true. I know people that wear special socks when they're having game day, high stakes presentations. Sometimes I'll wear a special necklace. Just kind of depends. Do I need that little extra oomph? Yeah. How about this side? Breathe. Yeah. We forget to breathe. Yeah. What makes breathing so important? Yeah. Oxygen to the brain, and you can think. I can't think of a better reason. When we breathe in deep and out, and we slow our breathing, we actually calm our body. And so if you're really amped up, breathing is a great way. You don't have to pay money. You don't gotta go somewhere to buy it. You got it in you. You can just breathe, but we don't remember this stuff. So having a plan in advance, a strategy, these 20 are 20 things I do and I lean on when I'm nervous, when I'm exhilarated. I feel that feeling and I go, okay, what's going to help me right now? And that's what that's meant for. And we're going to move on because I want to get to this part with the 7 C's. I know quite a few of you in this room feel comfortable with speaking, so I'm glad to hear that, and I think this will be super helpful. Now, when I went to presentation training class, and I went to quite a few of them, some of them tried to give you a framework or a process or whatever, but I never really felt like any of them fit. And it wasn't until about a couple years ago when I'm doing this business of speaking, and I'm giving presentations over and over, and I'm having to create a presentation from scratch, and I'm going, there's gotta be an easier way. And so I went through all my notes, and I watched all these successful presentations. I looked at some not successful presentations, and what I came up with was a framework, what I call the 7 C's. It's on the back of your confidence boosters too, so it's kind of an easy way to kind of cheat sheet to look at. But the 7 C's is basically 7 parts to a presentation. It's a framework, if you will. It's going to allow you to be flexible and fit whatever you want inside of it, but if you follow the framework, it's going to help you put your presentation together faster. And in business, we don't have time to spend 20 hours on a presentation, and we don't want to wing it. And so I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. The first thing, when people come to me and they say I'm struggling with my presentation, the first thing I do is ask them, what is the one thing you want your audience to walk away with? It's super simple, but it's the one thing that we don't ask ourselves because we have all these things that we want to share. We want to be credible. We want to be, we want to teach them everything we know. We want to fit so much into the presentation. And sometimes we forget that there's got to be a central theme. And I call it the critical point. So in today's presentation, the critical point is confidence, action first, feeling second. So it's like if we take the action first, we will then get the confidence feeling. And your your critical point could be something very simple, like a bumper sticker sort of saying, or something like a slogan type thing, but something easy for you to remember, something for you to go back to and share with your audience a few times, just to get them to walk away knowing what you want them to know. The next is captivate. So that's how I want you to think about presentations. Start out by captivating, and really we're looking to disrupt people's thinking. They come in from their busy day, the mess that they had to get through to get here. Their mind is on 100 billion different things, and you want them to all be with you right now. So the best way to do that is to disrupt their thinking with something captivating. It could be a question, it could be a short story, it could be anything that kind of goes, oh, I'm with you right now. And if it could tie to your presentation, your critical point, that would be awesome. And the next thing is to connect. Now, connection is like your opportunity to introduce yourself if you haven't already, or to share a little bit about why you're there, why you care. We often forget to share in our presentations, why am I so invested or committed to this topic or to this movement, whatever it is. What makes me care? Because until you know why I care, you're going to be questioning the whole time. The audience questions, can I trust them? Why are they talking about this topic? What makes this important? There's questions in their mind until they go, oh, I understand why this is important to this person, and I'm gonna follow them for a little bit and see where this goes. You with me? So that connection is huge. Next is the consensus piece, and that's the part where we want to get everybody kind of going with us wherever we're headed. Like let's get everybody going down this one path. And for me, the consensus is a great area for engagement, because you get in there like 10 minutes into your speech, and then you find out from the group, why is this important to you? What makes this matter to you? What's the difference it can make? Or what are you struggling with? I mean, whatever it is, it's gaining that audience's perspective on why this matters. And then you can use that throughout your speech if you want to, and it can help inform an even better presentation. You don't ask. Some of them aren't gonna follow you. They're not gonna know why it matters to them. Welcome. All right. So the consensus and then the core. The core is like where it's like the main body of the presentation. 3 things. Think in threes. There's 3 most important reasons for you to listen, the 3 things that hold people back. You don't have to say 3 things. It could just be, I'm going to share with you this, this, and this. Whatever it is, but think in threes. The core can be divided in 3 parts, however you want, but it's kind of a great way to organize the core or the main body of your presentation. Inside of those 3 parts, so like for me, I need more confidence is one of my 3 main points inside of the core. The other, in purple, I need to know what to say. And the third, I need to know how to say it. Those 3 points I'm sharing with you. I'm also sharing with you tips on how to overcome. I'm sharing tools. So inside of those 3 things, you have stories, you have facts, you have research, you have activities you can do. So however you make up your presentation, it falls great underneath your 3 points, and those point towards your critical point. This is really fun stuff, isn't it? All right, is everybody with me? Any questions so far? I'm just sailing right through. And then commitment is a piece that we forget often. Even in sales, I see people forget the whole commitment piece. Like we get through the sales presentation and we forgot to ask them about the next step. Like we leave and we go, oh, that was a great presentation, but I don't know where we're going next. And so the commitment is your chance to think through, what do I want my audience to do? So if your audience is 1 person, 4 people, 20 people, whoever it is, what do I want from them? Typically you want something. Maybe you want business. Okay, what would be the next step towards business? Maybe you can't ask for the deal inside of that presentation, but you can ask for a meeting, or you can ask for agreement, or you could ask for, like today, I'm going to be asking for, what's that one thing you want to step into? What's that one commitment to action that you're going to take? And that informs me on what kind of stuff are you guys up to? You know, what are you up for? Now, that is the quick synopsis of the 7 C's, and I dive into that a little bit more in my workshops, but I want you to know that there's a way to formulate a presentation very quickly, and that's one way to do it. And if you want to like tweak it and create your own, and maybe something doesn't fit right, make your own, but have a framework for quick content gathering. Oh, I skipped over that. Yeah, there's a conclusion too. You don't have to be perfect up here. I'm an example of that. I built that into my presentation. Yeah, so the conclusion is the wrap up at the end. So conclusions can be kind of tough. What I love to do with conclusions is if possible, create a tie between the captivate at the beginning and the conclusion at the end. So it's kind of like your bookends, and you have a little bit of a theme in the beginning and the end that kind of wraps it all together, and people go, oh, that was awesome, and I know it's over. How I would suggest you don't end, and I see this a lot, is ending on questions. So, you know, there's a PowerPoint, and then there's a question slide, and it's like, any questions? And people know you're done, and then they just shut off. Most of the time, they don't have great questions. And so what happens is some questions will come out, and those will distract from everything that you just got done doing. And what do you walk away remembering? You walk away remembering the questions. And so my approach to questions is I want them all throughout. I want them coming to me all the time. I want you to know that you can ask any time. I can handle any question at any time in my presentation because I'm following a framework. If I get off course, I know where I'm going. And that's what makes it so fun for me up here, is that it's somewhat organic in that way. Not everybody's comfortable with that, and it took me a while to get to this point with that comfort level. But if you can find a place inside of your presentation for questions, not the end, you're going to end and you'll have a more powerful close. Yeah.
So you're giving me permission to ask a question now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Only if it's a smart one.
I'm really curious about the element of commitment, because I think that is an essential part in a powerful presentation. So how do you strengthen that component in such a way that it makes the whole presentation valuable? Because just disseminating information isn't going to be a powerful presentation. But tying it into some conclusion and a commitment to act does. So how do you strengthen that component when you get to the end of your presentation to bring it all together?
That is a fabulous question. What's your name? Greg, thank you. So how do you make the commitment piece so powerful and impactful that they actually do something? They don't just hear you. And the answer to that is complicated a little bit, because what you want to do is you want to begin with your influence at the beginning and all the way through. You want people to understand what you're about. You want them to understand where you're headed. You want them to know why it's important to you. And so there's all these pieces inside of your presentation. They're baby commitments, if you will, that people are going, oh, I like him. I think I can trust him. Okay, and then there's something else. He said, oh, he's like me. I have that same feeling. I know what that's like. So you're becoming relatable, you're becoming dependable, you're becoming trustworthy to your audience. And there's pieces of your story then that build to when you do ask for the commitment, they go, yeah, it makes sense. Where I see it fall is when we are just disseminating information and then boom, hit them with the commitment. You know, it's like, huh, and I'm not ready. Like whatever, like I'm not ready for what you have because I don't know if I trust you yet. If you haven't established that with me, and I don't know if you're the expert I want on this project. And so there's all these questions if they haven't been answered. And I'll tell you what, the biggest and best way to do that is to engage your audience as much and as much as you can. And however that is, whatever that looks like. With me, it's asking you questions, it's having you look at something and then respond. And however that looks for you, to really find out from your audience, what is it they care about? What is it they're struggling with? I'm finding out by just listening to a lot of you that the fear is not huge in this room. So that's not where I'm spending a lot of time. I have other audiences I talk to, and we spend most of the time there. So you know when you have a solid presentation, you can flex. And at the end, I want you to get what you want. I don't have any expectations from this presentation other than I want you to know I'm a resource and how you can get a hold of me and how we can stay connected. That's what I want from this presentation. If I could improve your process at all, or your staff's process in this to be more, make them more confident, make them feel more comfortable, I will feel elated. Like that would be a great byproduct of my presentation. But when we come at a presentation not in service of our audience, but how can I get something from my audience, it really does show. It comes out. It comes out in our language, comes out in our eye contact. We have like these micro body language pieces. People pick it up and they go, oh, I don't really trust them. I don't know why. And it might be because we're not focused on the service aspect of it. And it's easy to forget that when we're up here, it's a privilege. And there's something that we can provide, but we don't know what that is until we have asked the audience, what is it you want me to provide? So I'm throwing a lot at you here. What questions do you have based on that? Yeah, Rick.
I kind of have my own question.
Yeah.
So you've helped a couple of companies I've done work with get ready to raise capital.
Yeah.
And you've seen a handful of those. What would have been kind of a common thing that maybe they were doing not as well as they could, and what might have been a common outcome from working with you that maybe they showed the most improvement on?
Well, I worked with them for 2 hours, and in that time, I had them present, these people that I worked with, I had them present their pitch to me, and it was a 20-minute pitch. And then we worked together for 2 hours, and then I got to see them do their thing. And the improvement was by far the comfort level with self. So instead of being really concerned about doing it perfectly, not messing up, having to know everything on the slides, and there's so much anxiety around doing it right and doing it perfect. And each of them had different skill levels and different, like one had given 100 pitches before. She's like, I got this. I've done this so many times, but yet she was open to learning. And what I could see with her is that she wasn't engaging with stories. She was going through the motions. And so for her, it was really turning it personal. It was making it a presentation that mattered to her, instead of a pitch that I got to do just because, I got to see if I can raise some capital. And the other part of the question, I forgot.
Well, it was maybe were the commonalities that they were not doing as well as they could.
Oh.
And so were there common threads
Yeah,
of things that were.
The answer to that is by far, this is my opinion. And Rick, you've seen a lot more pitches than I have, and so you know what is a good pitch and what is a bad pitch. My personal opinion is that the more words on the slide, the more distraction from what you're asking for. So if you're asking for money, you better get to the hearts and minds of those people. You better get them to trust you. If you have a PowerPoint that's distracting, that they're trying to read while you're trying to share a story, your story is diluted. That means they're not buying into what you're saying, what you're selling, and loss of money. Loss of somebody, wanting to be on your side, wanting to work with you. So is PowerPoint bad? No. PowerPoint needs to enhance what you're saying. And those PowerPoints, I would say, were on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing. I would rate them at a 4, honestly. And so, yeah. Yeah, exactly. More pictures of, children and everything. Yeah, we know we know instinctually like what would be amazingly emotional, but we don't always do it. Yes.
I don't know if it's fair to have a specific question of an experience that I had. We talked about it being a 20-minute presentation.
Yeah.
And when I got there, they said, you actually have 40. And so I just,
Oh, God.
put in a bunch more slides and all that. And I talked them to death, really. And it didn't really matter because it was more of an academic group. And but that was a very challenging experience. And I had enough to fill the time, but I don't think it was good. Can you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, that's
where
heart-wrenching when you're
you're
prepared to
claps that are stretching on you.
Yeah, so, and I'm running out of time here, so I'll give you an example, and then we'll probably be closing really quickly. What happens when you're given more time to present is if you have activities that make sense and are related to your subject, your topic, your whatever, and the activities engage the audience and they're experiencing, you can cut those activities short, you can lengthen them depending on what's needed. And so I would say in an hour-long presentation, have 3 opportunities for activities and then use them like accordions. And have them be supportive of what your critical point is so that they make sense and there's a reason why you're doing them. Now, there was a few more things I was going to share with you, but I'm not going to share those with you today. I'm sorry. I don't mean that to be, what's more important is that I end on time and that we had a chance to have a conversation, that we had a chance to explore, and I hope that you will try the 7 C's because it will, and I would love to hear back from you. In fact, I have a yellow card in front of you. If you would like to stay in contact with me, just fill this yellow card out and I'll collect them at the end. And then we'll make sure and stay in contact. All right, thank you.